Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Cha Lontok, and I'm going to be your host this afternoon for today. Welcome to DI Central's first ever Philippine Executive Forum in partnership with Microsoft and YEAPS. It's a first twice over. This is the first time that DI Central is presenting itself here in the Philippines, of course, to Philippine business leaders now that it's officially landed in the Philippines through its country partner and representative, YEAPS. Joining me and welcoming you are leaders from DI Central, YEAPS, and Microsoft. We have Peter Edlund, Chief Solutions Evangelist at DI Central, Takashi Nishimura, APAC Business Development Manager at DI Central, JP De La Vega, CEO of YEAPS, and Tadashi Zialcita, CTO at YEAPS, and Fides Amor Ricosa, Chief Partner Officer of Microsoft Philippines. Bouncing back from the economic impact of the pandemic is the priority of most businesses. We all need to work together to make this happen. But clearly, there will be leaders in this process, and a lot of them will be the companies who have resilience because of their digitally transformed and digitally accelerated stance. Today, we will meditate on the ideas that in bouncing back from a year or so consequential, integration and automation are essential. I repeat, integration and automation are essential. You'll hear about EDI from experts at DI Central, a global leader in EDI services, now in the Philippines. Peter will also be giving a keynote to give everyone a baseline to work with. What's special and important about today is that we wish to have a conversation. This is not a one-way thing. This is a two-way thing. We're going to have a conversation with everybody present today. After we hear the keynote of Peter, we'll get on a roundtable discussion facilitated by no other than JP. Participants, which is all of you who are here, are definitely encouraged to chime in with your questions, insights, your thoughts. Yes, go ahead and type them up and use our chat box. We'd love to hear from you. We also will be conducting polls throughout this webinar so that our speakers can offer greater context in their remarks. So make sure to join in the polls and answer those questions later on so that we can have your informed or be informed with your point of view. Let's warmly welcome an important leader from Microsoft, Ma'am Fides Amor Ricasa de la Rosa, Philippines Chief Partner Officer. She will deliver the opening remarks. Welcome, Fides.
Thank you, Chal. Good afternoon, everyone. Um, you must have heard this before, and I'm sure our partners also know this by heart. Microsoft's goal is to empower every person and every organization in the planet to achieve more. And we've only been able to successfully do this with our strong global partner ecosystem that thrives on building more solutions to make organizations operate faster and smarter while integrating and connecting with each other. With this, I'm really happy to see another partnership come together with DI Central now landing in the Philippines through one of our key local partners, YEAPS. It's also very timely as organizations in the country really need our help. We've been in and out of lockdowns, and a lot of companies are still not at their 100% on-site working capacity. So the main challenge really is that a lot of these processes are still done manually. Take order processing as an example, right? From PR, PO, inventory checking, manually inputting it in ERP, invoicing, manually inputting it again in ERP, until the confirmation of the shipment or delivery has been made. So, can you imagine how extreme delays in these processes have contributed to the organization's losses just because people who had to physically go to work weren't able to go back to their workplaces since the pandemic? EDI, or electronic data exchange, dramatically improves the organization's turnaround or processing time by replacing those repetitive manual tasks with simplified automated processes such as common transactions between the buyers and suppliers while streamlining the whole supply chain. By simply implementing EDI, we've seen organizations save up to 35% of transaction costs and between 30 to 40% reduction in errors normally associated with manual processing. We've also seen an increase of up to 65% on business cycle times as productivity and efficiency increases, with employees being able to focus more on high value and revenue generating tasks. So anyway, our partners, DiCentral and YEAPS, can talk more about it later. And seeing how this has helped a lot of our customers, I'm just really excited to introduce our partners who can genuinely help you as well. So without further ado, let me turn you over to DiCentral and the YEAPS team. Thank you and hope you enjoy the session.
Thank you so much, Fides. Indeed, it is time to bounce back. You know, since Philippine businesses operating in the manufacturing, retail, supply chain, automotive, and healthcare sectors face an unprecedented mix of opportunity and challenges with operations, customer engagement, and workflows forever change. Most are definitely seeking to make the new normal a better normal. I love that. Make the new normal a better normal. And the answers and solutions they seek are already within their organizations. They just need to unlock it, of course, with technology. So before we definitely dive in with our keynote, I'm just gonna get through your messages. Some of you saying hi from Korea, some of you answering the questions earlier on, saying that they check the email status of their POC status from partners, checking the news. Okay, wonderful. Thank you for that answers. Now we know you guys are here and you can use the chat box to throw in your questions later on. So as promised, we'll be diving right into it. Ladies and gentlemen, let's all welcome from DiCentral, joining us from Houston, Texas, Peter Edlund, Chief Solutions Evangelist at DiCentral. And before he comes in formally, Peter, what time is it there?
It is 3:17 a.m. I'm on my second cup of coffee.
Wonderful. And we are grateful that you are keeping us awake and keeping us in the know of things. So Peter, I'll throw it now to you.
Great. It's awesome to be here. Pleasure to meet everybody. And I want to thank our partner YEAPS and Microsoft for hosting this wonderful event and allowing us to come up to the Philippines for the first time. It's unprecedented times, as we all know. We're coming out of the pandemic as a global community. We're all coming out unevenly, but I do say that we are coming out. And what's great about that, of course, is that I don't believe through the pandemic innovation was stifled at all. I'm looking forward to sharing my thoughts on this. And the next few slides we'll go through and talk a little bit about DiCentral and, of course, some examples of where innovation and integration has occurred. So again, my name is Peter Edlund. I'm the Chief Solution Evangelist here at DiCentral, and I've been with the company for well over 20 plus years now. And I want to actually focus primarily on revenue growth. And this topic today is about that. We're over 20 plus years, as I mentioned before, 7,000 plus clients around the globe, 13 offices around the globe, including a finer point on our APAC regional office located in Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam, with well over 300 plus employees dedicated to the craft of B2B integration and also in implementing these tools and capabilities for our customers worldwide, as well as in the area of APAC. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tee up a quick little video for the consumption of the audience so you can hear firsthand what our operation operates like and listen to the video coming up next.
Our mission is we provide the latest technologies for B2B supply chain, translate into automation within the enterprise and automation outside the enterprise to all their trading partners.
Our core solution, which is called a cloud interchange platform, is hosted on the Azure cloud. It has disaster recovery capability. We have all kinds of sensitive institutions on our network, such as banks, large banks. Azure really gives us the peace of mind that, you know, everything's going to be okay with our network. When COVID-19 happened, many businesses, especially in retail and manufacturing, realized they were not prepared for such a supply chain disruption. So our company was uniquely well positioned to help those companies by having B2BI or business-to-business integrated technology. We were able to upgrade and enhance customers' automation, digital integration, visibility, efficiency, flexibility, performance of their supply chain during a major disruption. At that time, we just couldn't go out there physically and meet with our customers, which is especially very important here in Asia, and demonstrate our solutions. We decided to channel all of our sales efforts through Microsoft Teams. As a global team with 11 offices worldwide and customers in over 35 countries, we were actually able to rapidly existing customers and set up solutions for new ones with Microsoft technology. We closed several big deals remotely using Teams over the past few months, and we had our best sales months in our 20-year history as a company.
At DiCentral, we have multiple Azure sites across the world, allow us to scale and grow as a global company. We can work with large multinational corporations. We ensure that data is safe in different locations, is compliant and runs smoothly. All of our new customers are relying on Azure. Now we are on the road to migrate more than 6,000 existing customers from our data center to Azure.
Being Microsoft's partners, we get all kinds of support to expand our solutions, from market guidance to digital marketing, events, and getting qualified leads. In addition, they connect us to other partners in the region that we can grow with to sell more solutions. They have given us a regional and global visibility, which we wouldn't have had before.
And I think from my perspective right now, the remote selling is actually even more effective in person so far.
Well, I hope that gave you a sense of our company, particularly as we talked about it in Asia Pacific, in our Vietnam operations. I'm really excited about that particular video. It was really kind of an insightful way of thinking about how we partnered with Microsoft, and of course, going forward, as we start talking about our architecture, which is what we'll talk about next. We'll talk a little bit about that solution platform. We're considered a hybrid data integration platform and a service. And I want to just kind of echo what others have talked about, as the partnership with Microsoft is extremely important as a foundational layer on top of Microsoft Azure. We built our stack of technology on the Microsoft platform. Azure is extremely important, as you heard in the video. But what I want to point out here is this stack of technology that we built on top of Azure really surfaces up our professional services, as well as the technology across retail CPG, logistics distribution, banking, finance, and automotive industries. But I'd like to get your attention closely to the slide on the right-hand side. What we operate as a multi-enterprise business network, where we're connecting enterprise businesses together, moving business data in a secure, scalable way. On the left-hand side, we operate an integration platform as a service, integrating business data with back-end systems, along with providing app-to-app integration as well, all through a single network. Combined together with the multi-enterprise and the iPaaS solution, and serving this up to our clients allows for the most complex and the simplest integrations, all in one platform. So real quick, I'm going to go through these 4 points that we'll go through and uncover new channels of revenue. As we talked about, this whole presentation is really about a pivot to revenue. And I don't know too many people that may be in the audience here representing retailers, manufacturers, distributors, in small and mid-sized businesses, as well as enterprises, would say that revenue growth is not important. I'm sure everybody is considering that a big part of their business. We'll talk about developing new strategies for each new channel, aligning technology with channel strategies, and then we'll talk about best practices for revenue implementation. So real quick, these numbers are coming from a software, I would say a software evaluation site. It's kind of a crowdsourcing site where software is evaluated by end users and are ranked and stacked ranked by their capabilities. The survey was conducted by the G2 company. 30%, just to be clear here, we were looking at statistics of supply chain managers want to respond to their customers' mandates faster and more accurate in a unique fulfillment model. 79% of companies that were surveyed with high-performing supply chains achieve revenue growth, and 59% of retailers want to increase investments in omni-channel fulfillment. So now, before we go on to the next slide, what I want to do is just talk a little bit about where I see the opportunities. Shift in market strategy or white labeling products, expanding online presence, automating processes, onboarding new partners, increasing wallet share with current clients. These are all legitimate sort of reasons why you pivot towards new revenue and how you go about it potentially. What I'm going to share with the audience today is to kind of go through and highlight some real world examples. These are examples that fortunately DiCentral is able to see in our digital transformation that's occurring across our customer base. We actually help them execute those strategies to grow revenue. And I'm going to show 3 pivots that occurred not too long ago, and these are well-documented case studies, and give you a good kind of swath of examples of how that is done. So let's talk about the revenue pivot number 1, increasing revenue with existing customers. This is an important piece. As you all know, existing customers are the lowest hanging fruit in terms of achieving revenue growth. So the challenge, of course, is to provide inventory visibility to more buyers. And so if you think about it from the perspective of the channels that maybe you currently serve, expanding those channels and capabilities or being innovative in the way you go about achieving new channels is a great opportunity. So let me take a look at this opportunity here. This was and is a manufacturer of custom rims for tires for automobiles. Their customer, Discount Tire, a national chain of tire stores in the United States, was looking for a way to interact with and provide additional value to their end customers who are coming into the store for new tires. It just so happens the custom rim manufacturer, our customer, was running an e-commerce site on WooCommerce, serving many customers direct to consumer. However, customers were coming into the tire store asking if they had custom rims. One of the store managers found a solution, and they decided to partner with our customer. What was happening is the end customers would come in seeking a new rim. The store manager would go onto the website and order that rim for the customer. They would then have it shipped directly to the store to be installed on the customer's automobile. What was interesting here is this partnership opportunity started out with the manufacturer seeking a new channel. With one store, they were able to prove to the company, Discount Tire, that they could scale the operation. But it was more than just sort of serving up a new revenue stream for the rim manufacturer. It was a way of Discount Tire adding more value to their end customer by providing additional services. Now, what's important here is it started out with one store. To go nationwide across all the stores, it was important to scale from a technology perspective. So in this case here, Discount Tire's accounts payable department required invoices to be submitted via EDI, which is a standard way of moving data to and from back-end systems. Now, what was interesting here is that WooCommerce is an e-commerce site. So basically using web services or API integration into DiCentral's environment, we could allow order processing to go very seamless between end user at Discount Tire, WooCommerce's e-commerce site, and then of course the invoicing process back into Discount Tire per the requirements of Discount Tire. So the growth opportunities here are pretty well documented. Engage in drop shipping through e-commerce marketplace. This was something that was really scalable for our end customer. Improve user experience with automation to enhance current clients' buying experience. That was an important aspect of scaling across the chain to hundreds of stores, and create a scalable business opportunity with existing and new clients. Again, lowest hanging fruit is being able to go after existing clients and expand the footprint by innovating and leveraging B2B integration. So let's go to revenue pivot number 2. This is another classic example of accommodating new technology requirements. So the challenge is implementing technology for compliance. So as a manufacturer, in this example here, or this was a manufacturer, of course, it was Ralph Lauren who was driving the requirements, but let me describe our client. Our client is a logistics provider servicing the needs of freight via ocean carrier, truck, or air. And what they wanted to do was be able to make their service readily available to a customer. As you all know, shipping has been sort of disrupted over the last several months as the pandemic has been unevenly coming back and coming back to normal unevenly across the world. Shipping has been a big challenge. So one of the things that Ralph Lauren was looking for is logistics firms that could, on a dime, sort of be able to react to a new requirement. So that new requirement may be, for example, to get merchandise from manufacturer into distribution centers via airline, maybe an air carrier, for example. In this example here, Ralph Lauren went out to bid with many of the logistics providers and said, if you want to partake in this opportunity, you need to conform to my API integration requirements into my logistics system. And this is their TMS, their transportation management system. And you can see the booking notifications, the booking confirmations, all of these documents needed to be integrated. Our client used our universal adapter, and we consulted directly with our client, who was the logistics provider, to understand the requirements, working directly with Ralph Lauren, working through their API documentation. We were able to stitch together the solution. And then as you can see in the next few slides, or the next slide, the outcome was pretty significant. So now at this point here, it's a growth opportunity that ultimately wouldn't have been able to happen if it wasn't for the integration. Ralph Lauren mandated that the logistics provider be integrated in order to streamline the end-to-end processes. So again, from the logistics provider's point of view, it was easier to onboard new retailers and e-commerce trading partners because of the automated order processing. Supply chain visibility and reduction in errors improve customer retention. And of course, the partnership with technology companies such as DiCentral can scale with their business now. And now they're able to actually roll out more and more of these opportunities. Now, the third pivot is expanding into global markets. This is one of my favorite ones. And this is one that's universal. All three of these are pretty universally known use cases, but let's talk about this. So the challenge, of course, is supporting the demand of global markets. This is a unique opportunity where a current customer of DiCentral started out with a handful of retail trading partners. This large cosmetic manufacturer based in North America was actually trying to expand their footprint. And let me give you a sense of what their original sort of use case was. So we had spent the first couple of years working with them on automating the messaging from a handful of retailers in North America, making sure that data was seamlessly integrate with, in this case, it was NetSuite, making sure their warehouse was also updated with data set that actually was all about the supply chain related transactions that were flowing back and forth. It was important for them to actually get advance warning to any issues that were related to the messaging that was going back and forth, to make sure that customer experience from their point of view was at the highest level. DiCentral's integrated solutions are built directly with adapters. We support, of course, the Microsoft Dynamics suite of NetSuite, as well as many other ERP adapters as well. In this example here, we positioned them for growth. We're able to let them focus on their business and ultimately scale, which led to, during the pandemic, a decision to start to go global. And of course, going global meant that they need to make sure that all the systems were automated. Selecting new trading partners, relationships throughout Europe, logistics providers and third-party warehouse logistics firms, and actually choreographing all of that data requirement and unique requirements from all their customers was complex. DiCentral continues to serve in a way that we consult with them on those requirements, and they can build upon all the work that we've done several years ago. And as they start to go global, you can see the platform is scaling for them as they expand their business. And of course, this is the output. Global growth and scalability throughout Europe and other locations are currently happening. Agility and expansion between sales channels. So they're able to expand into not only direct sort of traditional brick and mortar, but they have the opportunity to serve marketplaces and extend the capability that we currently have using our universal adapter and our API integration set. And the technology helps them kind of execute on their go-to-market plan, which is really something they can focus now on their core business, which is producing, manufacturing, and distributing cosmetics across the globe. So just as a quick recap on the best practices for revenue growth, I want to just point out a moment here that gaining more wallet share from existing customers is probably the easiest thing to do. It's probably the most obvious opportunity for our customers, as well as anybody that's listening to this webinar. Product innovation to sustain that revenue. I think existing customers are always clamoring for more and more from their vendors. So as you are able to serve up more innovation in your products or your solutions or services, leveraging the existing customer is an important piece of the revenue growth story. Pursuing additional market channels, as we talked about earlier, going and expanding those revenue opportunities geographically, and leveraging technology to make it easier to conduct business. Whether you're a retailer, whether you're a manufacturer or a distributor, leveraging technology can automate processes in a way that helps you become a more viable customer. And so just here's a quick checklist I'll leave you with. Do you have new products? That's something you might want to consider when thinking about revenue growth. What channels are you working in? Do you need to expand those channels? Do you need a partner to help you expand those channels? What new markets do you want to serve? It could be markets that are geographically dispersed. It could be just a new offering in a particular market. Evaluate the partnerships to expand your market. As I mentioned before, partnerships like the one I have with YEAPS is certainly helping us getting into the Philippines as an example with DiCentral. What risks will you need to overcome? Do you have issues related to technology and requirements that are coming from your customers that you need to overcome? Do you have maybe, as we talked about, sort of coming out of this pandemic, what have you learned to minimize sort of the impact of a health disaster such as this? And again, technology and integration now and into the future. These are sort of the things you want to think about as you're trying to think about growing revenue. And then my final thoughts, of course, pivot point may be about technology. It might be also about market appeal, places that you might want to go and explore for new revenue growth. The goal is to determine the best strategy for reaching the new revenue. And really that strategy is about sort of taking a look about what's important to you, but also thinking about outside of the box, thinking about how you can build additional revenue streams within the organization by potentially leveraging data sets within your company, exposing those data sets, leveraging API integration or what we call composite applications that unlock the data and then make it available in a different format. And then consuming information and data sets from various partners to be able to provide additional revenue or information to your clients. So I want to thank you. And again, it's important for us to sort of end a little bit here, and I'll have more thoughts as we go to our little panel discussion. But I want to thank everybody for taking the time to listen to me.
Peter, thank you so much, and a good early morning to you all the way in Houston. I'm certain that after watching that presentation, people who are here today would want to chime in and already talk to you and your teammates about everything. So I'm just going to remind people who are just coming on board right now, don't forget, you got to see the presentation. You got to hear a few things already that could definitely help you grow. So if you have questions, insights, go ahead, use the chat box. I keep highlighting this because it's important that we hear from you. We know what you're thinking. We know what you're curious about or would want to learn more about. So go ahead, start using that. We'll get into it. Let's welcome our panelists now joining on our virtual stage. YEAPS Chief Executive Officer, JP De La Vega, who will be the roundtable facilitator for us this afternoon. DiCentral's Asia Pacific Business Development Manager, Takashi Nishimura.
Hello, everybody.
Hello there. Thank you so much for joining us, Takashi. And YEAPS Chief Technology Officer, Tadashi Zialsita. Good day, gentlemen. Take it over, JP.
Hey, Chow. Thanks for that wonderful intro. Thank you, everybody, for being with us. This is the time when we really want to talk to you. We don't want to just send signals to you, send information to you. We'd love to hear back from you so that we can have a wonderful afternoon together with the little time that we have left. Interesting signals from Peter over there. Some of you might be surprised to hear about revenue, channels, and making new value while looking at it from a supply chain perspective, from a warehousing perspective, and from a manufacturing perspective even. So it's pretty even initially. Most people have actually done something on the supply chain side and beyond to really drive customer experiences in the last 1 to 5 years. That's wonderful to know. So I got to throw this out to Peter first, and everybody can chime in after. Most would think that the investment key to increasing revenues lay primarily in marketing work. But how does EDI directly dive into value making, say in areas like demand planning?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think as it relates to demand planning, that those are things that are activities that are happening all the time as you think about from a retailer perspective, even a manufacturer's perspective. But I think the reality is EDI is about messaging through a standard protocol that allows for those signals, if you will, in an automated fashion. You're assuming that you've got inventory systems that are keeping track of your inventory. You've got obviously sales orders coming in. You've got to combine these data feeds to be able to keep things kind of in sync. Now, of course, these data feeds are transmitting through a standard protocol called EDI, electronic data interchange, but it could be API, an application programming interface. But what I would always say to a customer or anybody that's interested in knowing about that is that today you can't do business without actually getting your partners involved, and you've got to digitally connect. And the reality is that business is moving at the speed of thought, and we need to make sure that those demand signals and or inventory signals are real time as much as possible.
This is really essential to that whole infrastructure side and output side of things. So just to follow through on this idea as we build up on some key concepts here, we'd like to put in another poll question. Dan, could you please put in question number 2? Okay. So it's basically, aside from anything related to modern work, has your company seen significant digitization or process changes in commercial operations or in supply chain operations? Love to hear your answers there. It's an overwhelming yes so far, so let's pick it up from there. So I have a question, another question for you, Peter. No, A lot has been said about transforming the sexy parts of a business, work itself, modernizing work, marketing front end, customer experiences, finance, intelligent operations. Can you help us see a more thorough and balanced picture of where EDI figures and impacts all of these necessary changes and transformations that companies of virtually any size really need to embrace?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the bigger things is that EDI or API integration can unlock legacy data sets and allow you to essentially leverage that data. And as you modernize, you're not necessarily going to throw out the legacy technology per se. Although that might be a strategy, most companies are going to try to evolve. As they try to evolve, they're going to want to have certain technology stacks that may be on front end customer facing that wants to leverage existing data through a legacy application. And so, for example, API integration is a great way of thinking about how to unlock that information and provide it into a new modern application. I would say that from a supply chain and multi-enterprise network perspective, one that DiCentral operates, our customers tell us that EDI is of super value to them because most of the applications that they're running in the supply chain require data to actually drive and automate those systems. And the output from a return on investment perspective is ultimately the data that is being driven through those systems that help automate those processes. So I would say that both on the manufacturing side, retailer side, or distribution side, many people would agree with me, I suspect, regarding the data set that traverse the supply chain are super important ROI.
I got to follow through with two questions right away, Peter, just to build up on this point I want us all to arrive at. So, to somebody uninitiated, EDI might seem important for sure, but not necessarily urgent. Quick thought, what would you say to that?
Well, I think it depends. I don't want to be someone that's going to push something that may not be certainly required, but I would say that the modern sort of digital company and digital transformation by all stretch of imagination is that you are digitizing your organization and unlocking additional value. So as you think through on how you execute about that, I think EDI is going to be a consideration. If you're a manufacturer, API integration and EDI, depending on what channels you're going to, are going to be a requirement. On the retailer or the buying side of the equation, if you want to automate the receiving process or you want to expose a new fulfillment model that incorporates your direct-to-consumer and you want your supply chain partners to be involved, you certainly want to start getting those, as I mentioned before, the inventory signals, the item information, and all of that by EDI.
I'd like to paint a picture of where everything is happening, right? The real world economy today. And you guys operate around the world. We're happy to be part of that story here in the Philippines. I'd like you to sort of tell us what incredible, unprecedented changes have you seen from your customers around the world as they seek to ensure resilience and success in this post-pandemic world. Shipping, obviously a key problem. I'm very curious about what you see and what you've talked about with clients and how EDI is involved in all of these things.
Yeah, I think that from our, yes, we're seeing a lot of different things happen. Obviously, we saw, there was companies that were thriving and companies that were just trying to survive during the pandemic. And, those that were making the investments, there was a couple examples that I mentioned in my keynote, but things that we've heard about in our business, of course, probably one of the more interesting ones recently was a company called Home Depot in the United States, which is this is a home improvement store that's located thousands of stores across the United States. Recently just contracted their own ship carrier. They've actually purchased the rights to use this ship to exclusively ship product from China into the United States to ensure that they don't lose revenue over the next 2 to 3 quarters. Considering the port congestion that is occurring in China because COVID has restricted movement in many of the key ports, they've pivoted, if you will, towards a resolution to that problem. That's an interesting scenario I've been seeing. Where does EDI play in that? Well, in our case here, as a sort of network-based solution, being able to quickly leverage a cloud-based solution like DiCentral and now integrate data feeds directly into a new carrier is relatively easy, as opposed to some hard-coded or manual process that may have occurred. Temporary shifts in supply chain require a level of flexibility, and I think our cloud-based platform really assists in that area.
That's right. I mean, you could make a very strong decision like that. You can fund it, but there's a lot of practical processes that need to be thought about, right? You can't just do it at the snap of a finger. But that flexibility factored into the decision making because there are advancements in EDI in their stories that allow them to make such drastic decisions, bold decisions, in a very comfortable, confident way. So I'm very happy that you were able to share an interesting story like that, Peter. Really wonderful. Buying your own ship, that's got to cost a few $100 million for sure. I mean,
well, we've seen this. I think we've seen this before. I think that VPs of supply chain that are responsible for a large part of spend for the organization have to do what they need to do. I've seen examples of Procter and Gamble purchasing their own railroad in Russia, where they were having supply chain issues and they needed to get factory shipments directly to distribution. They went and bought their own railroad, and which is just another example of some extreme measures. And we're going to see more of this sort of pivoting towards different solutions as we kind of go through this. And I think I just heard today, I think we talked about Asia Pacific is first in on the pandemic, and they're going to be the last ones out. So APAC as a whole, from a shipping perspective into the West, we're going to be challenged for a little while. So people are going to be doing interesting things, and I think you just pay attention to the news, you'll see it.
That's right. That is a sad truth, though, by most pundits' perspective, that will first in, but maybe last out in all of these post-pandemic consequences.
Yeah.
So integration and automation are incredibly essential. I want to pivot to Takashi. So our DiCentral partners are calling in from all over the world. Peter's in Houston, Takashi's in Japan, Zhao is in Australia, Kang Lei is in Vietnam. Really great set of experts from around the world here, leveraging the international nature of their organization. Takashi, I'd like to pivot to you. I gotta ask, there are very large companies here, but there are a little smaller companies also in this call and in the recordings. When is it a good time? What would you say to them? When is it a good time to look into any form of EDI work? And what will be the prerequisites anyway for a good head start on all of this?
JP, I have 2 points. The first point, EDI is not related to the size of the company or enterprise, either for big enterprise or for small corporation. It is okay. In my opinion, it will depend on the number of trading partners. Trading partners, it means for sales side customers or logistic providers, distributors, and for buying side suppliers, logistics providers. So if the number of trading partners for sales side or buying side are increasing because the business of your company is growing, then it is a good time to study introduction of EDI. It will depend also on the number of documents which you are transacting with trading partners, and also for the volume of the documents you are sending and receiving with these partners.
So trading partners volume, document volume, these are the things that really factor into EDI. That's what EDI is all about at the heart of it all. So I got to ask a practical question, though. I'm going to come back to you, Takashi, but I'd like to poll everybody. Can everyone please chime in? Dan, let's pull in question number 16. We'd like to ask you, in your organization, who leads technology-driven changes in your organization? For sure, in most companies, it's the CIO, but in many cases, the CEO or even a manager really drives these interesting things. So I'm curious about how it looks in your organization. As a whole, of course, there are many initiatives, right? Let's please look into that quick question, and let's get some quick results here. Okay, so we're seeing some interesting results. It's really overwhelming response here. The CEO really asks for something, right? The CEO asks for something and doesn't necessarily know the solution for his ask or her ask. So my follow-through question for you, Takashi, with all of your particular experience in the Asia Pacific region of your customer base, who are the people that need to be part of the company's EDI enablement story? And what roles and processes do they need to sort of think about and delegate between each other?
Yeah, in my opinion, as a department, corporate planning department is the key department for decision making. Perhaps corporate planning department receives a direct instruction from CEO or CXO level. And other than corporate planning's department, IT department and accounting department, and also sales department and procurement department are the members of evaluation. And in retail industry, merchandising department is the key department who studies about introduction of EDI.
All right, Takashi. On that point, let me just build into this with Peter again. I got to ask you, Peter, legacy systems, they're super important to companies, to people, a lot of time, talent, and treasure put into these things, years even, right? So how does EDI unlock value today? Today being a relative word, right? Today, and basically extend the value, the shelf life of these legacy systems, or at least delay big changes or big investments and big transformations.
Yeah, I think well, EDI or API integration in particular can certainly unlock that. And as we talk about digital transformation projects where you're really trying to sort of think about the services that you're consuming to help you become a better and more efficient company, maybe additional cloud services that want to leverage existing data sets. So you've got 2 or 3 applications that are legacy, and those data sets are sort of housed in those legacy environments. But let's say that you want to leverage a new cloud application for Salesforce automation, for example, or you want to use a logistics provider that requires product information or shipping information that's housed in those legacy environments. I think API integration going forward is going to be one of those ways that you can continue to operate a legacy environment until you see fit to sort of retire that and expose the data set in a uniform way, and then sort of integrate that data into those additional applications. I think that's just the way of going about digitizing these days. I don't think too many are doing a big bang approach, although that does happen. I think everybody is trying to figure out ways to sort of phase things in as they modernize and digitize their business.
I got to follow through on that, Peter, since we're talking about documents, transactions, efficiency, not only reducing cost, but also creating new value, right? But I want to chime in a little bit on the supply chain story here. So between fulfillment, compliance, can you give us a picture of what an ideal EDI-powered supply chain system and financial services integration would look like, say, with a bank or payment systems or whatever?
Well, sure. I can kind of go through the traditional scenario where let's look at a retailer, for example, who is very interested in making sure that their supply chain is as efficient as possible. Most retailers are operating at a very small margin in terms of their operating margin. And what they want to do is to make sure that all the costs associated with getting product to the shelf in a timely manner is controlled and is at the least cost. So operating this in a manual process whereby emails of purchase orders, things of that nature, and invoicing coming in manually without any system intervention requires rekeying of data. You've got issues with errors associated with humans, which naturally occurs with manual processes. So automating all of that from a retailer's perspective does nothing but help maintain or increase margins within the operating environment. And that can all be digitized and leveraged EDI. As an example, purchase order goes to a supplier. A supplier is able to fulfill that purchase order and send back shipping instructions to the warehouse so the warehouse can determine how much staff they need for the receiving of that merchandise in the distribution center. and also having the retailer impose a requirement for invoicing electronically. Now the invoice goes directly from the manufacturer into the retailer's accounts payable system, so they can actually do a three-way match between purchase order, physical receipt of the goods at the distribution center, and of course the invoice before they make payment. Payment then can be done, and then the remittance advice can be shared with via EDI from the bank, showing the manufacturer that payment has been made. It's an interesting sort of use case. It's pretty straightforward, but when you see it in action at 100,000, 2,000 times a day, you can see the efficiencies.
So I want to ask everybody to feel free to chime in by voice or by chat. We have maybe 2 or 3 minutes left, or maybe 5 actually. Sorry, my time check for this panel. We really want to hear from you guys, and we want to lend as much insight as possible. But I gotta quickly pivot into 2 things on that point, Peter and Tadashi. Actually, firstly, the fast question really is intelligent edge. A lot of new devices will make these processes even more interesting, even more immersive, whether it's augmented reality based fulfillment related processes and whatnot, built entirely on the fact that EDI and even API work makes many things possible process wise, right? Curious about the kinds of intelligent edge devices we could look forward to potentially. I mean, I could point out things like HoloLens eventually, right? But any thoughts on that, Tadashi or Peter, maybe on what that edge would look like thanks to advancements to come now that you have foundational work with your EDI investments?
I can speak to some of that. I believe what you're going to see, obviously, the intelligent order management systems that are going to be deployed, OMS order management and the distributed order management capabilities are going to be very interesting. And of course, the one that comes to mind is a recently released intelligent order management system from Microsoft, which will go across all the Dynamics environments, and of course will be also sold separately as a different SKU for those organizations that wish to have a modern OMS in the cloud. But what's interesting about this concept, of course, is connecting and digitizing the supply chain end to end through these order fulfillment models. But as you get into the warehouse, these edge type devices, particularly robotic operations where fulfillment, and you'll see it throughout Amazon, for example, deploying robotic technology. These order signals that are coming in from various feeds are going to be ultimately brought down to the device level to actually fulfill those orders, whether that's conveyor systems or actual robotic systems that are lifting and moving product from one part of the warehouse to the other. Those edge devices are going to be pretty important, and they need to be having real-time data signals that are digitized throughout the supply chain
And
in order to make that happen.
That intelligent edge is only intelligent because it can count on the things that we do in the DiCentral, so that we could actually send those signals, inform them so that they could be intelligent in their course of work. And I gotta ask you guys, Peter and Takashi and even Tadashi, right? An organization will probably a big one will probably have to be proactive in sort of setting up a value-added network or even just a very well integrated trading community. Can you just maybe comment a little bit on what is the value, what is the merit in being ambitious about considering maybe actually implementing a network platform stance or an industry platform stance where you bring in all of these documents and processes together? What would you say is the importance of thinking along those lines, if only for your organization or your, group of companies, network, or maybe even your bigger ecosystem partners that you don't necessarily own or have a stake in?
Takashi, did you want to take that?
No, Peter, please go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, sure. I think obviously the investments that are being made in this are choices that are being made, either being forced upon you based on market conditions, if your customers are requiring you to do this, or if you are seeking to modernize. I think ultimately the expansion of the network and the investments you're making in technology processes are driven based on mostly revenue growth, right? We talked about this as a key sort of topic in this discussion today. We're seeking revenue, particularly coming out of the pandemic. Some organizations are benefiting from the opening of the world, and others are having to really think about what they're going to do going forward and rethink about their business. And as digitization occurs, digital supply chain is a number one topic. There's scarcity in the supply chain these days. People are trying to figure out ways to think about, I would say, being able to think back a few months, maybe even the beginning of the pandemic, and start to reevaluate what's the most important. And I think those investment decisions are going to be based on lessons learned. And of course, competitive pressures. Innovation has not stopped during the pandemic. Microsoft has proved that. They're a $2 trillion company today because they continue to operate and innovate throughout the pandemic. And all of us, including myself and DiCentral, are benefiting from all that innovation. I just see it nonstop.
Right. So there's a lot more to discuss, everybody. But the important thing is we will be available to you guys for a conversation at your convenience. We could have a simple discussion. We can have a proper assessment workshop, no commitments, no expectations. We just want to be able to talk to you and really lend some insight to help you get started on your way to bouncing back. EDI, electronic data interchange. You could also think about every deal integrated, every document integrated, another simple way to possibly think about it in our part of the world. And all of this really is meant to help you accelerate growth, not necessarily to just make savings, right? There's value on both sides, the top side and the middle. And we'll be able to tackle that in a very nice discussion that we could set up with you and your staff and your teammates at your convenience. In the meantime, though, we should probably move on to a interesting part. We will have a raffle, and then we will also preempt that with a survey. We'd like to ask for a little time from you guys, a few seconds, to just chime in with some thoughts for us so that we can also get back to you on some of these thoughts that you have. And then from then on, we'll move on to the nice raffle that we have and some final words from everybody. Chal, why don't you take it away? Thank you, gentlemen, for your time today.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone in that forum. Made us understand a whole lot of things. Love the case studies that Peter brought up as well and those samples. Again, if you guys need to ask your questions, don't be shy. Go ahead and type up in the chat box. You can direct it to Peter, to Takashi, to JP, or to Dash. Or if you will be asking the spelling of EDI, now that one goes to me. I can simply answer that really quickly. I learned that from Peter, by the way. And if I could just throw it, I'm no expert here, but earlier on the survey, one of the questions was asked, who was the greatest driver for when it comes to digitalization and technology in a company or organization? If I may say so to the organizers, you lacked one choice. So there's CEO, COO, CTO, manager, functionary, none. I believe for me, the answer is COVID. Forget about the CEO. COVID pushed us all, and I think everyone here will agree. COVID pushed us all towards finding new solutions, and getting through these times with digitalization. So thank you so much for that wonderful panel. Made us understand a whole lot of things. And right now, maybe we'll give some time for final words from our wonderful speakers for today. Go ahead. Let's start off maybe with Takashi or Tadashi, or JP rather.
Sure. Speaking for the YEAPS part of things, we are DiCentral in the Philippines. We're part of the family. We're part of the team. We're so happy that they are here now, ready to help any company in the Philippines, the biggest ones, the smallest ones. We are in a digital economy, COVID or no COVID, and all of this participating and benefiting from this new digital economy. There's no talk of that without doing the foundational work, which is getting our documents together, getting our partnerships together, getting our connections and processes together. These are the foundational things that have to be done. COVID or no COVID, it's the reality of our lifetime. And the work has to be done now. And we're ready to serve you, DiCentral and YEAPS together for every Filipino company. That's it for us, Takashi and Peter. Takashi, over to you.
Yeah, I really thank you, all of you, to spend time with us today. And it was our great pleasure to knowing you online. And I do really hope to keep communication with your organization, even starting from small questions or such kind of small things. Thank you so much.
And on behalf of all of us in the DiCentral APAC, I'd like to thank everybody for participating in this wonderful webinar. Thanking YEAPS, our partner, and of course, Microsoft, our ongoing partner globally. There's no better time to innovate and integrate. That's my parting words. I encourage everybody to reach out.
Well said to our forum. Once again, Takashi Tadashi, Peter, and of course, JP, thank you so much. I'll be honest here. I came in to this forum, to this meeting, not knowing anything. I come from a perfectly different industry about EDI. And now all I can say is I understand its relevance, I understand its importance, and the immediacy that you guys need to be able to get on board with this. So we really hope to hear from all of you who joined in. Thank you so much for sharing your precious time, one of the most valuable things here on earth, with us today. So your time has been very, very, very appreciated, and we hope that we made use of that perfectly with all the new things that you guys got to learn. So again, let's make this bounce back happen. Let's do it with rigor, faith, and tenacity, and of course with the integration and automation powered by DiCentral and YEAPS. Have a wonderful week, everyone. We look forward to hearing from all of you.